They thought it was just another adventure, shark cage diving in the bright blue sea. Smiles, laughter, and waves all around. But once the cage door closed, the real predator wasn't in the water. It was standing right next to them. Far from land, with nowhere to run, the ocean became a prison, and survival meant outsmarting a man who hunted humans the way others hunt fish. By the end of the story, you'll either be holding your breath or gasping for air. On the bright coast of Australia, the sea sparkled under the morning sun. Two friends from abroad arrived at a shark cage diving tour they had found online. Soon, the tour operator appeared, greeting them and wondering if they were a couple. One of them made it clear they were just friends, explaining that they were staying at a nearby hostel. Once everyone was on the boat, the operator kept the mood lively by sharing a story about a dangerous surfing incident survived at the age of 7. When asked if anyone had been watching during that moment, he brushed it off, saying he had spent much of his childhood on his own. The operator began tossing chum into the water to draw in sharks, which made one of the friends uneasy, especially after hearing about his troubled childhood. Noticing the discomfort, he lightened the atmosphere by playfully singing a children's shark song. Soon, both friends were lowered into the water inside a protective cage. At first, the female friend felt a wave of panic, but a reassuring hand from the male helped her relax. Soon, they were captivated by the graceful sharks moving around them. When they returned to the boat, their faces lit up with joy, until the moment the operator suddenly drove a knife into male, greeting her with a chilling welcome. The following morning, just beyond the same coastline, a lone female traveler caught the early waves, enjoying the calm sunlight over the sea. Later, while picking up groceries at a small supermarket, this traveler noticed a young person asking the cashier about jumper cables. When told there weren't any, the young person followed the traveler outside. There, he warned he would report a false shoplifting claim unless given a ride to their car. Not wanting trouble, the traveler reluctantly agreed. As they drove, their conversation slowly warmed as they discovered a shared interest in surfing and music. When the traveler brought up a favorite band, the passenger said he liked them too. That night, they ended up together, sleeping in the traveler's van parked outside the young man's house. At sunrise the next day, the man stepped inside to make breakfast, but when he came back out, the traveler and the van had already disappeared. The traveler went to the beach the next morning and discovered the surfboard's fin key was missing. Asking around for a spare, the operator appeared, offering one while praising the traveler's courage for surfing alone at sunrise. The traveler gave a polite smile before the operator drove off. Soon after, a message from the young man popped up, asking why she had left so early. The traveler replied she wanted to catch the morning waves, though it wasn't true. Moments later, the operator returned, crept up behind the traveler, and pulled a cover over her face. She fought to break free, but eventually went still. The traveler woke to find herself tied up inside the cabin of the operator's boat, with the surviving another woman from earlier sitting nearby. The traveler called out for help, but her voice was swallowed by the endless stretch of water around them. The traveler looked for something thin, like a hairpin, and her eyes caught the names of past captives etched into the wooden wall. Elsewhere, the man grew suspicious after seeing the traveler's van being towed. With little information beyond a first name, he still went to the police to file a missing persons report. Back on the boat, despite their grim situation, the two captives found themselves deep in conversation, sharing pieces of their past and small glimpses of who they were before all this. For a little while, the weight of captivity seemed to fade, replaced by a fragile sense of connection. The traveler noticed the underwire in the friend's bikini top and told her to remove it. Moments later, the operator stepped inside, handing one of them bread and water. He then turned to the traveler, warning her to stop pretending to be harmless because he was the true predator. After the operator left, the traveler tried to free herself using the underwire but struggled. Her vision began to blur, and she slipped into unconsciousness. The traveler awoke to find herself chained to a deck chair while the operator set up a camera, speaking at length about sharks, God, and the balance of nature. Using a crane, he lowered the other female out over the open sea. Both captives screamed, but the operator released the line, sending the female into the water. Within seconds, a shark struck, dragging her under as the traveler looked on in helpless terror. Shaken but still holding on to her will, the traveler carved her name into the cabin wall. Elsewhere on the boat, the operator moved with unsettling ease, dancing slightly as he sipped his drink. He carefully placed the DVD in a cupboard filled with similar disturbing keepsakes. Then, he prepared a new cassette marked with the traveler's name. The next morning, the passenger went back to the rocky shore where the traveler's van had last been spotted. On the shore, he found a broken surfboard. Out at sea, the operator arrived with a plate of food for the traveler. The operator then walked away, pointing out a waste bucket nearby if she needed it. Once he was gone, the traveler's eyes fixed on the bucket, and she quietly snapped off its handle. Later, the operator moved to the kitchen and prepared a syringe meant for the traveler. When he returned, she struck him with the broken bucket handle, knocking him out. She grabbed his keys and freed herself, but before she could get far, he came to and pursued her. Catching up, he drove the syringe into her leg. She reached the control room and tried the radio, only to find there was no signal. signal. Through the window, she spotted a party cruise ship in the distance. Just as the liquid's effects grew heavier, the operator appeared. Acting on instinct, the traveler hurled his prized camera into the sea and leapt in after it, only for him to seize her and drag her back onto the boat. The next morning, a police helicopter and patrol boat searched the waters for any sign of the traveler. Watching the waves from shore, the passenger opened a live camera feed app that streamed from along the beach. Rewinding to the time the traveler vanished, he spotted a truck pulling away from the place where the van had been parked. Zooming in, he saw the words of the tour company on the side. He quickly searched the name online, found a website, and tried calling the listed number. When no one answered, he decided to visit the place in person. At the same time, the operator was already on his way into town to buy a new camera. On the drive back, the operator was slowed by heavy traffic. The passenger reached the dock and stepped onto the boat. Faint cries for help led him to break a window and climb inside. There, he found the traveler with her hands bound. The traveler urged him to find a paperclip or skewer and call the police. Before he could act, the operator returned. A violent struggle erupted, and for a moment, the passenger managed to overpower him. But in the end, the operator knocked him out. In the cabin, the passenger apologized for ruining their chance to escape. The traveler told him he had almost made it work. When asked why she had really left that morning, the traveler said she was better off alone. The passenger shook their head, insisting no one was better off alone. The operator suddenly stepped into the room and injected them with drugs. Next, she saw the passenger strapped to the suspender. She shouted at the operator, but he ignored her and began raising the man over the ocean, lowering him slowly toward the water. The traveler called out for him to stay still, and for a moment, the sharks kept their distance. Frustrated, the operator drove a knife into the man, letting the blood spill to draw the predators closer. As he lowered the suspender again, a lifeguard helicopter appeared overhead. The operator froze, then quickly hauled both captives back inside. The traveler began forcing her thumb out of joint, desperate to slip free from the chains. She bit down hard on her own thumb, determined to break free no matter the pain. That night, the operator readied another syringe, but when he stepped into the room, the traveler's bed was empty. She slipped past him, slammed the door, and locked him inside. He began forcing open the emergency hatch while the traveler started the boat. The engine roared for only a moment before he cut the power. Looking out the window, she spotted a party happening on shore and grabbed a flare to signal for help. Suddenly, the operator arrived. She struck him hard with a frying pan. He staggered but recovered, climbing onto the deck just in time to see her swimming toward the shore. He leapt into a speedboat and gave chase, closing the distance until he caught her. Back on the main boat, he secured the passenger to a chair and suspended the traveler in the air. A splash of cold water jolted her awake. The operator lowered the traveler into the water and started recording. But the sharks kept their distance. Growing impatient, he used a hook to steer them toward the traveler. Seizing the chance, the traveler grabbed the hook and tried to pull herself back up. But he startled her, and she lost her grip, plunging into the sea. As she swam, she spotted the same shark he had injured earlier. She covered her wounded hand and locked eyes with the creature. After a tense moment, the shark turned and disappeared into the deep, leaving her untouched. The traveler hauled herself back onto the boat, seized a harpoon gun, and fired. The spear struck the operator, knocking him into the water. He tried to swim back, but she blocked his way. Suddenly, the water erupted. A massive shark lunged, clamping him in its powerful jaws before dragging him into the dark depths. For the first time since this nightmare began, relief softened their faces. She grabbed the emergency flare and shot it into the sky, its bright red light cutting through the darkness and catching the attention of the nearby party boat. Rushing to the man, she saw how much blood had been lost. She told him to hold on. Help is already on its way. If this story had you holding your breath, imagine how many more twists are waiting for you here. Hit that like button, share this with your friends, and subscribe so you never miss the next tale.